Díobh Carja, agus welcome back to our, I think it's the fifth episode of the Mhór podcast today. We probably have one of our biggest guests so far here today. Delighted to welcome Football Always onto the podcast for a chat about probably my favourite sport in football, soccer, whatever you want to call it. So you're very welcome. Jamie, thanks so much for coming on, and how are things?
Good man, thank you. Great to be here. Hope you're doing well. How are you?
Yeah, good now, thanks. Just done college for the week, so can't complain. And just I actually haven't done a podcast now or a video even in absolutely ages, so I'm delighted to get back into it now. And no, I'm really humbled because, in fairness, I think you are probably the biggest guest we've gotten so far. So it's very humbling, and just looking forward to having a good chat about football now. So I suppose the first question, to get straight into it, I'll ask is what got you into football? I presume you've been interested in it from an early age, and what got you into football, I suppose, is my question firstly.
It would have been my dad. He would have just told me from young on, like, I'd be a Liverpool fan, and then from then on it was that, and I was stuck with it. And playing at school and with clubs or whatever, it was always that, and it was always my favourite sport. I was never one for the GAA or anything like that. It was always football, like.
I can resonate with that a lot, actually. It was very much my dad got me into it as well. And I'd actually be a Liverpool fan too, which is, I didn't actually know you were a Liverpool fan, so that's nice to know. But yeah, so that's something I can definitely resonate with quite deeply. And in terms of how long are you going with the YouTube now? Is it 3 years, or is it shorter or longer?
I started towards the start of secondary school, so I suppose 3 or 4 years now. Yeah.
Oh, very good.
I've been doing it regularly enough. Yeah.
Very good. Yeah. No, in fairness, I've been following you for a while. Like, you have been quite consistent with it, and so yeah, like, it's, in fairness, it's, I mean, one thing I find in Ireland is it's sort of, whenever anybody sees you doing anything any bit different, they kind of can, come at you a bit. So it was a very ballsy move from you to, go straight into it. And did you ever fear, what other people thought of it or whatever, or were you always quite, fearless, and you didn't really care necessarily how other people would perceive it, I suppose?
I never really cared, to be honest. There is the bit of taking the piss, like, but
Yeah.
I don't really mind it. I don't really care. It's not that bad.
Of course, yeah, very good. Yeah, no, you're right. And I suppose, like, so we'll get into. So I'm happy that we've got, for people who might not know you, there's a bit of background there anyway. But we'll get straight into the football discussion, because that's what, at the end of the day, I think that's what people are here to listen to you for. So the Ireland squad came out yesterday, and the big, obviously, decision from it was how Matt Doherty was excluded from the squad. What's your reaction to the Ireland squad? Would you have pretty much gone with the same, or would you have changed much, or what's your overall opinion?
It seems a lot more like Hal Grimson picked it as opposed to John O'Shea. Like, it feels like he's making a bit more decisions. Dropping Doherty was deserved. He's probably Ireland's best player in ability, but doesn't really show that. I think Coleman's injured. Ebisele obviously is playing regular for Watford, so that's good. Jake O'Brien dropped, a bit of surprise maybe, but he's not playing for Everton.
Yeah.
Yeah, you probably want a few of the left back options like Dennis Kirkin, but I don't think they're declared as Irish yet. So sticking with Robbie Brady for the meantime. But other than that, fairly good.
Yeah, I was very happy with it as well. Like, I think dropping Jake O'Brien was a little bit harsh, but at the same time, in fairness, Mark McGuinness is actually doing really well with Luton Town at the moment, and Mark McGuinness has been a player who's kind of gone under the radar for a few years now. So I'm delighted for him that he's got called up, even though it does seem a little harsh on Jake O'Brien. But at the end of the day, if he's not playing football, he's not playing football. One player who, I don't know if you're aware of him, and I assume you are, because you're, but Sean Rowan, he plays for Lincoln City in League One, and if you look at his kind of statistics and stuff, and even how he's been performing for the last few seasons, he's genuinely one of the best left backs, I would say, in League One at just 21 years of age. Do you think it's too early to call up players like that, or would you potentially look to him, considering how gaping we are in the left back role?
No, I think left back, especially if anyone's half decent, like
Yeah,
Robbie Brady's past it. He was never really that much of a left back in the first place.
exactly.
If they're good enough, they're old enough.
I completely agree with you. Yeah, and the other option there is obviously Callum O'Dowda, who I believe the last game he actually played for. I'm not sure who he's playing for now, but whoever he's with, apparently they're bottom of the league, and I think the last game he played for them was at right wing. So Callum O'Dowda isn't much of a left back either. So I really am just I get frustrated when I see Sean Rowan consistently performing well in League One, because I mean, why did we drop Jake O'Brien? We dropped Jake O'Brien because Jake O'Brien is at the end of the day a Premier League level player, definitely a League One level, like a French League One level player, but we dropped him because he's not playing football, and so why should it be different that a Championship player should be prioritised over a League One player, even though the League One player is playing consistently, so that's just something I couldn't get my head around, especially since the Irish under-21s have such a vast option of left backs as well. I mean, you have the likes of Teo Adaramola. There's another left back. He was with like Hull City last year, and he wouldn't be up to senior level yet, but he's quite decent at under-21 level, you'd imagine. So I think Sean Rowan has been absolutely robbed of a slot in the squad. I really think it's time to bring him in and nurture him and develop him to be our next left back, because unfortunately, looking at how well Dennis Sarkin is playing this season, I think honestly, and maybe I'm wrong here, and feel free to debate me on this, but I could see Dennis Sarkin potentially playing for England one day. I think he's that good, so I don't think we've got much of a hope in hell with him. So, but anyway, I'll let you come in.
Yeah, again, I'm not sure about the Sarkin situation. I'm not sure how dedicated he is to Ireland. It might be a situation like Tom Cannon where he'll wait a while and then realise he's not good enough for England. But yeah, I think any good left back we need, because Brady is playing a lot for Preston, to be fair, but I just don't think he's really up to the standard of Ireland anymore.
I completely agree with you 100%. And then, of course, as we get towards to me, the biggest bright side of this recent squad was the amount of midfielders we have, because I was very highly critical of Heimer last time for only including, I think, 3 midfielders in the whole squad. So this time instead, we've included, I think, 6 or 7. Jack Taylor got a call up, and Finn Azaz got 2 well-deserved call ups. So I think in midfield we're looking really promising now, and even you've got someone like Andrew Mhór, who's actually playing really well for Stoke City in the Championship, who surely he might make it into the next squad, even though he's thriving with the under-21s, and you don't want to hurt the under-21s, of course, either. So yeah, what was your thoughts on the midfield, I suppose, as we've kind of covered the defence?
Moran's definitely a player I want to see in the senior team. I know the argument is the 21s are doing really well and they could qualify for, is it the Euros or the World Cup? They're currently
I think it's the whichever, anyway, yeah.
He's one of their main players, but I do think the performances he put in last season for Blackburn in the first half of the season, not so much in the second half, and this season as well, I honestly thought he was good enough to play for Brighton. I think he's good enough to be in the Ireland team, and he has that creativity where we don't really have in the senior team. He's a player I would have liked to see in the squad.
Yeah, I actually agree with you. I think he is good enough. And I understand the argument of you want to make sure the 21s do well, but at the end of the day, the 21s is only really there to supplement the senior team. I don't think it should ever really be sacrificing the senior team, So, yeah, I would agree with you. I'd love to see Andrew Mhór in the squad, but at least we have more midfield options now this time, and Finn Azaz in there is great as well, I think. So 100%. I'm not sure. Did Alan Brown get called up this time? I actually missed that. Or do you know off the top of your head?
No, he was dropped. I think Jamie McGrath came in from, which I'm happy to see.
I think that's a good decision.
I'm surprised he was out of the last squad.
I think that's a good decision
because he's playing regular for Aberdeen.
He's doing really well for Aberdeen. That's right, and Aberdeen are actually going well this season. So I think that's a really good choice by Heimer, because I thought Alan Brown's performances. People like to bash into the likes of Doherty and the likes of, I don't know, other players, but I think Alan Brown honestly has been one of the most, and I don't want to say this because I'm a Cork man and I'd love to see Alan Brown do well, but I think he's been one of the most underwhelming players in an Irish jersey I can remember. I just don't think he's really ever consistently done it for us, but so I think it's the right decision to drop him. And then as we get into the forwards, obviously you have your boy Troy Parrott, who's thank God is in the squad. What was your reaction to the forward line? Are you happy with it? And who would you go for that number 9 slot against Greece or against whoever? I think it's Fecka. Who is it? It's
Finland, it's Finland
Finland.
first, I think.
Finland first. Thank you. Yeah. So who would be your number 9, and what's your reaction to the forward selection?
I'm not sure what kind of formation he's going to go with. If it'll be two up top, I think if it's two up top, you're going to either play Parrott or Schmonix alongside either Ferguson or Ida, because I think
Mm,
Parrott and Schmonix are similar. Algrimson was saying yesterday they're both players that like to run in behind, that like to be on the ball. Plus
mm,
Ida and Ferguson, who are bigger lad, who will be getting in the end the chances. So
mm,
if it's two up front, I think it's going to be Ferguson and Parrott is what I would like to see.
mm.
I think he might stick with Schmonix. I'm not sure. And then if he's playing wingers, I'll always back Parrott.
Absolutely. I mean, Troy Parrott is really the Irish success story of this season so far. He's been absolutely brilliant. I think he's got 6 goals in the Eredivisie already, so I'd absolutely love to see him being given the start. Of course, Adam Ida is doing really well as well, so you can't discount him. Evan Ferguson, and as you pointed out in your tweet quite rightly, is actually the one doing worst out of the three at the moment. But at the end of the day, his quality is still pretty undeniable. So I'm not sure who I would actually go with. Maybe you could play like a 4-4-2 and play Smadix out left winger or something as the wide man, and definitely Agbene has to start as well as on the right wing. So it's a difficult one. I'm not sure really. He definitely has options up front. I think for the first time in a long time, which is really great, because I don't remember. I think in the past few years we've really struggled for options up front. Whereas now it's not like we've got world class players there or anything, but we do have some options of players who have done well in the past or are doing really well right now. So yeah, we'll just have to see how it goes, I suppose. So yeah, so the Ireland squad is fairly decent. I suppose it wasn't the worst squad announcement that we've ever got. It looks like the two right back options I'll just quickly cover is Festi Abasele and Andrew Amabamidele, who played a few games at right back last time. So who would you start? Would you start Ebasele or Amabamidele as your right back personally?
If we're going five at the back, it'd be Fessy, because
Oh,
I
of
don't
course,
think he's
yeah.
the best a defender. I really think he's more of a winger. And then if it's four at the back, I'd go with Amabamidele, maybe Darrell O'Shea.
Yeah.
I think Liam Scales can play full back, but I don't know if it's left back or right back.
Liam Scales can even play as a left wing back. Now I know the League of Ireland, which we'll touch on in a while, is obviously a much lower level. But when Liam Scales played for Shamrock Rovers, he actually played as a left wing back. So Liam Scales really is such a versatile option. He can play anywhere across the back line, which is great. Yeah.
Yeah, I would want Scales to be playing, because he's obviously doing really well with Celtic. I think, are
Mm,
you going to play him left back? If it's four at the back, I would play Scales left back, because I don't
I
think
agree.
O'Dowda or Brady are up to his standard. And he also then provides more of a defensive solidarity.
I completely agree. Honestly, I would just say F it and just play Scales whether we're playing 5 at the back or 4 at the back. I would have Scales as my number 1 left back considering this squad. But I suppose, if we're going to play a 5 back, he wouldn't just have Brady and O'Dowd in there for no reason. He's probably going to play one of the two of them. But so it really depends. We just don't know at the moment whether it's going to be a 4 or 5 back. So that makes it very hard to predict the lineup. But yeah, like I would personally go, regardless, I would go Scales as either left wing back or left back. But I understand that's probably not going to happen. Um,
Yeah. What was he playing on the what was the game we lost? Greece. Was that a
Greece.
4 at the back, or was that 5 at the back?
I think that was
4-4-2,
I think that was a 4-4-2 that day. Yeah, that was a 4-4-2. I'm fairly sure. Um, so
So I would think you would continue playing that.
yeah, I'd imagine so. Which that would be absolutely,
Again.
that's a position tailor made for Scales, like as a 4 at the back. Because this sort of new system that we're seeing with a lot of Premier League sides, even for example for Arsenal, where they almost have 4 centre backs as their whole back four. It's a proper full back where you have your Calafiori and your Ben White, who are or Timber, whoever, who are playing as pure full backs, kind of staying back. So I think that role would be tailor made for Scales personally. and Owen Bamidele potentially as well. So I think that back four of Owen Bamidele, Scales left back, and then whoever your centre backs or whoever you want, I suppose Collins and O'Shea. I think that has potential to be a really solid back line. Excuse me, if it's trained properly and the tactics are right, etc. So yeah, before we move on from the Ireland topic, I'll quickly ask for your score predictions in the game, and then we'll swiftly move on to something else if you want. So go ahead. What's your score predictions for? I think it's Finland, and I'm not sure who the other one is, but yeah, you can go ahead anyway.
I think we beat Finland. Finland are probably a worse team than Ireland. I know it's probably being a little bit optimistic, but I think we get maybe a 1-0, a 2-1 win. And then I think Greece is the other game, which I'm assuming is away.
Yeah.
I think Greece are obviously really good at home, so I think we lose that game like we did in Dublin, which will be frustrating. But I think just to get that first win under Hallgrimsson will be really important. I think we can do that versus Finland.
100%, yeah. That it'd be a huge boost for the lads if we could get that win. And realistically, Finland, certainly on paper, I would say we have a much better squad than Finland. Like, I can't think of too many Finnish players other than obviously Teemu Pukki, who's getting on a bit now. So on paper, like, we have Premier League players. We have, like, I think we should be beating them, but you can never really count on Ireland. Like, so we'll just have to see how it goes. But we'll move on swiftly anyway from Ireland, and I want to ask you a little bit about the Foreign League, the Premier League. How do you think the Premier League has gone this year? What's your kind of opinions? And I presume you're a happy enough Liverpool fan, but what's your overall take on how the league's gone so far?
Yeah, I've been pleased with the way Liverpool have been playing. To be fair, Gravenberch has probably been the biggest surprise. He's been absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
But we haven't really faced that many of great opposition at the same time. Man United the strongest, and it's not like they're in a great position. The rest of the league, I think Chelsea have been surprising enough. I didn't think they'd have a great year. Palmer's obviously been one of the best players on the planet in the last 12 months. And then City and Arsenal. City never really started the league great, and Rodri getting injured is obviously very frustrating. But I do think they will be better, and Arsenal will probably have to continue to fight. I do think, even though Liverpool have started so good, I don't think they'll be in that fight. I think it will, by March, it'll be City versus Arsenal again for the title.
I probably agree with you if I'm honest. It just, unfortunately with Liverpool, they're looking really brilliant at the moment, but it does just take a Gravenberch injury or even a McAllister injury. The centre, I think we're quite threadbare in defence as well. We don't really have a backup for Van Dijk. So it just takes a few injuries for Liverpool and it could all really collapse a little bit. So listen, I'd absolutely love to see the Reds go on and win the league, but it's kind of our squad at the end of the day isn't that much different to what it was last season. I think what Arne Slot has said is that his goal this year is to break the points tally from last season. So last season I think we got 81 points. So his goal is to break that and get, I don't know, anything above 81. So if we could do that, I think it'd be a really successful season. But I suppose it's not the title race might just be a season early for us yet, so we'll just have to see how it goes. And we'll go to delve back into Irish players. How do you think the Irish players so far have gotten in the Premier League? Are you happy enough, or do you think they could be doing a bit better? Obviously, Ipswich Town got a lot of Irish players this year, so
I think, yeah, a lot of Ipswich players that are Irish. None of them really playing consistently. Albene started most of the games, and Darrell O'Shea, I suppose, but Smonix doesn't seem to be starting as much. It looks like they're going with Liam Delap. Taylor is coming off the bench most games, to be fair. I think the Irish player that's most impressed me is Nathan Collins, especially at the start of the season, his first 3 or 4 performances, especially against Liverpool.
He's brilliant.
He was incredible.
Yeah.
I think you really saw the potential of how good of a defender he could be. The rest of them, Ferguson's just coming back from injury, I suppose. And is there many more Irish players? I mean, O'Brien hasn't played much, neither with Omobama Diele, to be fair.
That's very true. Yeah. I mean, it seems a bit unfair that Kelleher, of course, yeah. It seems a bit unfair that Owen Bamidele is still getting his place and O'Brien isn't, because they've both played equally the same amount of minutes. But I suppose Hallgrimsson sees potential in Owen Bamidele as that right back, so it's that's why, obviously. But it does seem a little bit unfair. But I would basically I concur with basically all of what you said. it's nice to see some lads getting minutes, but I suppose nobody's been really stand out so far. Obviously Smadek's got that goal against Man City, which was kind of a nice moment, but he hasn't really done anything, to be honest, since then. But Ipswich do have a solid team, so it's not easy to get into it. They have the likes of Jack Clark as well at left wing, and Liam Delap is a brilliant striker, so it isn't easy to get into that squad, to be fair. But yeah, look, thanks very much. We'll move on from the Premier League to our own league, which I hope is a lot more. Even though obviously you're going to enjoy watching the Premier League more, it's a more entertaining league. This league is definitely one that's a lot closer to my heart personally, as an Irishman. So, and you've done really. I encourage anyone watching to watch your video on the League of Ireland. You've done really good content on the League of Ireland. You don't neglect it. Like, I mean, I was just disgusted. I presume you saw the dugout. Those lads, it's obviously disbanded now after Paddy Murphy. But I was just disgusted, to be honest, when I saw how they have such a huge following, like even more than you, like a huge following, and they never, not a mention to the League of Ireland, like just completely Premier League, Premier League, Premier League. And there's nothing wrong with covering the Premier League. I mean, we just covered it. But like, you could give a little bit of love to the League of Ireland, and they didn't. But so yeah, what's your opinion on how the League of Ireland has gone this season? And after that, we might talk about a bit how we can develop the league and your ideas for that. But firstly, just on a simple level, how do you think what's been your opinion on how the league's gone this year?
Now, like in terms of the Premier Division, I can't be claiming to watching every game every week because I'm going to Kerry FC most of the time. So,
very good.
But from what I've watched, especially the game on Monday, it's incredible, isn't it? It's like that game had me on the edge of the seat. That was the game of the season, Pats Shelburne, and the title race has been terrible, but it's been very entertaining from a neutral perspective. I mean, the top 5 teams are barely winning. It seems like none of them want to win it, and I said it on Twitter. It'd be very funny if St. Pat's ended up winning the league because there's a chance they could do it.
Yeah. And
that would be hilarious. Like, I think they're 6th right now, but they could still win the league with 5 games left.
That's correct. It's going to be it's a huge task, like, but they mathematically could anyway. Yeah.
Yeah, and like they've been the form team. Like they are 6th, and they've been the form team for the last 2 months. Shelburne, since they lost what was his name? Will Jarvis, he was still their top scorer. He left in like July. Malloy, who's at Aberdeen, he went back to them. They've lost a lot of key players, so they're not the same team. If they win the league, it's not going to be through their own brilliance. It's just going to be getting over the line. I don't think they'll even be in the title race next season unless they invest proper. Rovers kind of put their focus on Europe for a few weeks while they were qualifying. They obviously had a really good result last night. And then Derry have had poor results as well. They might be focusing on the cup. It'll be interesting to see. But I think Shelburne get over the line just about.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I think that's probably how it's going to end up, but it's so close, and like Shelburne were running away with it for such a long time that it's almost embarrassing that it's so close now. I do think I see Derry winning the cup as well. Yeah, and it's been a decent season. Even towards the bottom of the league, it's been quite interesting. Obviously, Dundalk is the main story there. But it's just so interesting to see Dundalk, how far they've fallen, and obviously Drogheda as well are sort of down there as well. The rise of Galway United, I think, has just been incredible, and as well Waterford, they're 2 of my sort of rival clubs, with John Caulfield being formerly Cork City, and Waterford just being a rival. But it's John Caulfield, even with a lot of snidey remarks about Cork City in the press conferences, saying, "Oh, I thought they said they couldn't buy the league," and all this kind of stuff. So it's been I can't wait for next year to be back in the Premier Division and face John Caulfield. It's just going to be really interesting. So, and you mentioned there that you're a Kerry FC fan, which is great. Like, you've been incredible this season. Really, I didn't expect Kerry to. When I saw you last year, I didn't expect you to develop really this soon as much as you have. So fair play to you, like. And what's your favourite memory so far as a Kerry FC supporter in your short lifetime as one?
It's interesting because we lost, but we went to Turner's Cross at the start of the year, and I don't know if you were at that game, but there was a lot of Kerry FC fans at that game. We almost filled out the away section, and that was fun. Also, the draw goals that went to penalties. We lost that as well, but again,
that was huge. That was incredible.
It was incredible.
So what was the? I actually, this is
Yeah,
very bad. This is showing how much of a plastic fan I am. But what was actually the score that day in Turner's Cross?
uh, either 2-0 or 3-0. I know Jack Doherty scored twice, which he
Okay,
always scores against us, whether it be
yeah.
for Cork City or Cove. But he did score. I think it was 2-0 or 3-0.
Right, yeah, yeah. I think I can vividly. I wasn't at it, but I can vividly like remember the result. But yeah, no. In fairness, now, yeah, it's either. I think you've huge potential as a club because Kerry is such a big area, like, and um, you know, like I do think there's an appetite for football in the county as well. Like the Cliffords always talk about they um how they how they like could have potentially, made it, even though in fairness David is always very humble. He says that, oh, I wasn't good enough, but I definitely think there's an appetite in Kerry for soccer. And I just, as much as all as we'll be rivals as Cork City and Kerry, I do hope that you do well, because the end of the day, like, the more clubs the better in this league. I'll just ask you this: do you think that uh, the lack of teams in the League of Ireland, the way that it's very Dublin centric and that there's so few teams in sort of rural areas throughout the country, do you think that's a problem, or do you think that's just always going to be the way it is? Like, what's your opinion on that?
I think as the league grows, I think we'll have more rural teams. I think having teams like Kerry and maybe throwing a team in like Tipperary or something
Yeah.
would be better for the league opposed to having half the league. If UCD go up, I think half the league, the Premier Division, will be Dublin teams,
Wow.
which isn't
Yeah.
great.
No.
But at the same time, they're the teams with the most money. So if the League of Ireland is going to be sustainable, you want teams like Pats, Shelbourne, and Shamrock Rovers.
100%. Yeah, there's definitely, at the end of the day, Dublin is the capital. There's 1.5 million people living there. It's always going to be a somewhat Dublin centric league, and that's okay. It's a little bit like the Premier League is almost a London centric league. Like, there's nothing abnormal about it, but it is a pity when you see then that the people of, I don't know, Cavan, Monaghan, Tipperary, the list goes on, literally don't have a club. And then the problem is that forces them to have to just follow a Premier League club if they're into soccer, because what option do they have? Drive 2 hours down the road just to watch Shamrock Rovers? It's a big ask. And now some people do it, to be fair, but it's still a quite big ask. So yeah, no, I think I agree. I think hopefully as the league grows, we'll see more rural teams. And Kerry FC. This is why I've this kind of soft spot for Kerry FC, because they have shown these smaller areas that it is possible. It is possible to, you know, it is possible, and that you can do it. And in a matter of 2 years, Kerry FC is already quite competitive in the League of Ireland. So, like, it would be absolutely great. And there is talk that potentially by 2026 that we might have a third division, which, maybe made up of teams, the top AUL teams or whatever at the moment, which would be fantastic. Like, but it just feels like we're quite a long way away from that, because, I don't know, who knows? Let's just hope and pray that it can happen. Obviously, without getting too political, which, we're not afraid of doing that on here either. But um, you know, I think an all Ireland league would be massively beneficial for both leagues here on the island. Like, have you ever given that any thought about, what an all Ireland league would do for Irish football? And I presume you'd be, for
I
it, like, but
Yeah, for sure. I think it would be good, having that competitiveness. It's not like we have a big island either, where
yeah,
teams from Kerry would be travelling that far. Um, I think if they were to introduce it, they would want to maybe do an All Ireland Cup, which I think they had a few years ago
that's
before.
right. Yeah.
Um, that would be better. Maybe introduce that for a couple of years, see how that goes as a trial basis, and then if that works and that goes well, then maybe introduce an All Ireland League.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, yeah. No, I think that would be a sensible way of looking at it. Yeah, like, um, you know, what would I say? Like, yeah, like, it's a difficult one, because obviously there's political tension, and some people are never going to agree to it. But you're dead right. Like, we at the end of the day, it's a very small island. We're never going to be a serious footballing prospect if we don't start to come together a little bit more. And um you know what I mean? Like it's always going to be very difficult if if we're if the two leagues are separate, in my opinion. But yeah, maybe to see to as a sort of trial run, bringing back the old I think it was called the Setanta Cup back in the day or something, would be great. You know, just to see like how we go with it. Um, yeah, and so do you think that the let's say the powers that be, the Irish government and the FAI, do you think that these kind of bodies, non-governing bodies, and the government itself, do you think that they do enough to support the League of Ireland, or do you think more has to be done?
No, they don't. I mean, grassroots level is abysmal anyway, and it's not like the League of Ireland is overfunded at all. And then when you think about, compared to GA, when you invest in football, like the benefits Shamrock Rovers would get just off getting a draw in the Conference League, the money
Yeah,
there. Once you do invest, the grassroots, the football players improve. Like, it's a long process, but there's definitely a reason to invest, and it's not really that. You see some of the stadiums, like I've always believed the League of Ireland would benefit from having nicer stadiums because it feels like an occasion. I mean, Mount Hog Park isn't really a stadium. Turner's Cross, you go there, it kind of feels like an occasion because you have four stands. You feel like you're entering a football stadium. But then when you go places like maybe Treaty, Mount Hog Park, it doesn't feel like a football stadium. That's what people might look to. Anfield or Old Trafford.
of course. Yeah.
Those are aspects. Obviously, you have grassroots, which again is poor. Some of the facilities compared to the GA are poor. There's a lot of aspects where they need investment and it's just not there.
Absolutely. No, you're dead right. You can't really argue what you're saying. And I've been to Waterford's ground, and I can kind of the RSC, and I can kind of see what you're saying. It doesn't really feel like a football ground. Like there's literally a track there, a running track, and there's only like two stands. But could you just expand? Because I've never been to Mount Hawk or Treaty Stadium. So could you kind of expand a bit more what you mean? Like, describe the stadium and why it doesn't feel like a football stadium to you.
Well, like before Kerry was a thing, clubs used to play there, and I've played there, and it's really just
Oh
two
well.
AstroTurf pitches, and there's a little stand. It kind of, I mean, maybe it's just because I've played there, and it just kind of feels like another pitch,
Yeah.
but it it doesn't feel like a stadium. And also,
I get
one
you,
of the
yeah.
ends of the goal is just a field. There's no stand, there's nothing. It's just a field, a net in a field.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, I'd love to go to Mount Hawk someday. I need to. Unfortunately, I mean, I should have went this year because we probably won't be. Well, I hope, unless you end up getting promoted in some miraculous event, we probably won't get much of an opportunity to go back to Kerry. But yeah, it's definitely a stadium I'd like to visit to just kind of see the vibe around there. But I know what you're saying. It's probably it's not the best ground, and especially when you've played there, it kind of takes that novelty away from it as well. Of Jesus, are we in a football ground at all here? Like, um. So yeah, I'm gonna put you a bit on the spot here now, if that's all right, and if it's too much of a big question and you can't think, go ahead or even give me a half-assed answer or anything. But what would be your all-time 11? Do you think?
What? Just all time in general, or whatever?
In general, yeah, like you can pick any
Yeah.
players you want, like from playing now and in the past, whatever. And yeah, just it doesn't even have to be like the best 11. Like if you have like you can put Divock Origi in there if you want, just whoever your kind of favorite 11 of all time, if you don't mind. And if it's too much, don't bother. But yeah,
No, no, no.
yeah,
I'll go Neuer in goal. I think he's the best ever.
yeah.
He obviously revolutionised the game with playing at the back. Uh, right back off the top of my head, I'm just gonna pick Trent because he's one of my favourites. I can't think of a right back.
I won't argue with that.
Um, um, and then centre backs, I would go Ramos. I loved Ramos, even though he did the thing to Salah in 2018. I think. I just loved him. I thought he was class. The amount of goals he scored. The red cards and stuff. That was just the guy. He was the guy for a decade. And then alongside him, I would go Van Dijk. I think he's one of the greatest ever. Well, no, we'll go with Maldini. I've never seen him play in my life, but what the streets say. He was obviously one of the best. Then left back, Roberto Carlos. Again, never seen him play, but I've seen the highlights, the free kicks. But never seen him play. Defensive midfielder. I genuinely love watching Rodri play. I'm not going to pick Rodri, but just a shout out to Rodri. Busquets. I think Busquets. He was incredible as well. Similar enough to Rodri in some senses. And then Zidane. Just highlights from Zidane as well. And then I'll pick Gerrard off the Liverpool bias, but I did again. Pirlo's another player I liked watching for the short time I was able to watch him, and highlights as well. Right wing Messi, greatest ever, no doubt. Striker Suarez, I think he's arguably the best striker ever, but also that Liverpool connection. He was my favourite player growing up.
Brilliant, yeah.
And then left wing, you go with Ronaldo. I'm just trying to think of a right back because I don't want to put Trent in this team. We'll go with Philip Lahm.
Fair enough.
As the option, because people always say how he barely got booked and stuff and how reliable he was. So actually, no, what I'll do is I'll put Ramos right back because he played there at the start.
He did.
I'll throw Van Dijk into the team alongside Maldini.
Perfect. Yeah. And then I think, did you pick a last strike? Oh yeah, was it a 4-3-3 you went for? Was it as a formation?
4-3-3.
4-3-3. Yeah.
Suarez,
So you
Suarez,
Ronaldo, Messi. Well, that is an incredible front three. Yeah. Jesus Christ. Yeah. No, I think that's a completely fair 11. Like I wouldn't have much of an argument with it. I don't know. I'm probably there's too many players in my head that I just couldn't be arsed even trying it now. So fair play that you actually answered it. But no, that is a very good team. I think a lot, and it's a lot of players from your own era as well that you actually got to watch play, which kind of helps as well. But there's people always give out.
It's difficult.
No, go ahead. Yeah,
it's definitely difficult with those arguments. You're obviously never seen it. Like, I mean, I could talk about Maradona, but I've seen his documentary or whatever, but I never really saw how good Maradona was. Or I know I picked Zidane, but you never really saw how good he was.
Yeah.
But I can talk about players like Pirlo, who I saw for a bit, I guess, or Ramos. I think is a good example. Or Messi, and Ronaldo, obviously.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, absolutely. Like it kind of, I think it helps when you've seen a player, but at the end of the day, like we're all football fans. At the end of the day, we there's footage you can go back on. So I don't think there's anything wrong with you picking the likes of Maldini and Roberto Carlos, even though you've not seen him play. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But obviously it helps when you've seen a player play like as well, Right, we'll probably round it off soon enough, but just before we round it off, what's your where do you kind of see your channel going in the next few years, and what's your sort of short to medium term goals? Obviously don't give anything away too private or anything, but what's your sort of medium to short term goals, and would you be opening to collab with people and stuff like that?
Yeah, like I've always kind of wanted to do journalism and stuff, so I think it's a good pathway to
100%,
that.
yeah.
I've been very inconsistent the last 2 or 3 months. I'm kind of hoping to get back on that, posting consistently more with like long form videos. I mean, shorts are alright, but like I do like to make a nice long video where it kind of just feels a bit like not really a documentary, but something like that. So that's kind of the aspirations, to kind of lead to like a sports journalist path and something like that.
Well, I think you've a very bright, sincerely, and I'm not just trying to blow smoke up your hole here, young man, but I think you've sincerely got a very bright future ahead of you, and the world is at your oyster. If you want to do sports journalism, I think that's definitely something you could pursue. Fair play to you. I've been watching the channel, I'd say maybe the last 2 years, maybe, or something like that, and it's seriously very good stuff, and you have built a good following, but I think you deserve a lot more, to be honest. So really keep it up. You're shining the light on Irish football as well, which I think is very important. So fair play, and hopefully we'll meet at an old Cork City Kerry derby someday or something. But yeah, football always.
Hopefully we'll get our first win.
100. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. We'll see about that now. But it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much for coming on. And to the viewers, thanks very much for watching episode 5. If you've got any suggestions of who you want on next, drop them down in the comments below. And Gurv me the Magus, kind of agus slán go fóill. Thanks for watching, lads.